All right, folks. So in the last video, we talked about average check. And we said average check was a great way if we could increase that if we ran out of seats. So, or if all our seats were full. So now we're going to talk about seat turnover. And how do we turn over a seat? Because, you have dinner, you're not going to just have one person sitting in your seat all night in most restaurants, right? So when seating is maxed out, we can serve more customers in a period by increasing the turnover or the number of times we have bums in seats, right? So for every chair we have in the restaurant, if we can get 2 or even 3 people in that seat, we can get the average check for each one of those people, right? So if we had that average check of, what was it, $47 for one person in that seat, if we can get 3 people in there, we just tripled the amount of revenue that we can bring in, right? Now, there's a couple caveats that we're going to talk about that as we go forward here. But the first thing you want to know is how to calculate it, right? So seat turnover is going to be the number of customers that we served in that period divided by the total seats that we have in the dining room. So, if we have 100 people served and we only have 10 seats, well, we turned over 10 times, right? Unrealistic number, I know. Here's an example. So a restaurant has 120 seats in the dining room, but serves 280 guests for dinner. What's our seat turnover value? Well, we had 280 seats divided by 120 would give us 2.33. So that means we turned over every seat in the restaurant 2 1/3 times. Now, of course, we didn't turn over a seat 1/3 of a time. This is an average for all the seats. So some seats we turned over 3 times and some we turned over twice, right? But now we have a number that we can say, okay, if we had 120 seats in our restaurant and usually we do 2.3 turns, then we can see how many guests we can get, right? So we can use that to increase our revenue as well as, like I talked about, the average check, right? So things with seat turnover that you have to be aware of, right? It's gonna be impacted by a slow kitchen service or understaffed or slow dining room, right? If the customers are sitting at the table waiting for each course, they're sitting there longer than they need to be. Most people don't linger after they've had their dessert or their final course, right? They're up and out, and then you can get in there, reset the table, and get another people in. Guest service should not be so rushed that it reduces check average. Service must remain efficient but comfortable to the guests. So this is the balancing game that you're going to have to play. I want to increase my average check, but that means that the customer might be sitting in that seat a little bit longer, right? So it's a balancing act that you and your management team have to make a decision. Are we looking at seat covers, seat turns tonight because we've got a big lineup to get into the restaurant? Or are we trying to, we don't have a lineup, so we're trying to do that extra upsell and get some more money out of them, right? Either way, whichever way you're going that evening, you need to make sure that you're not rushing the guests to get out, right? We've all probably been in that situation where you're taking the final bites of your plate and the server's like pulling the plate away from you, right? Doesn't make you want to come back the next time, right? So you want to make sure that you're giving proper service and proper guest expectations for your establishment and not rushing the guest out of the chair, right? So it's a delicate balancing act that comes with experience. Seat turnover can be used with the forecast to decide how many, if multiple dining rooms to open, when to expand a dining room. So if you are in a situation like a hotel where you have multiple meeting rooms that you could access to expand your serving area, you can decide to do that whether or not based on your seat turnover, right? Do you need the extra space, or do we keep that section closed because then I don't have to staff it, right? So these all go into decisions on how we can run our restaurant efficiently.